And today I want to make it absolutely clear to Assad and those under his command, the world is watching. The use of chemical weapons is and would be totally unacceptable. And if you make the tragic mistake of using these weapons, there will be consequences and you will be held accountable.
President Obama did not say how the United States would react if the Assad regime uses chemical weapons, but he made clear such an act would be unacceptable and would trigger strong U.S. action. Gregory Koblentz, an expert on weapons of mass destruction, says America's concerns are well-founded. Syria is one of the few remaining countries with an active chemical weapons capacity.
Syria is believed to have a pretty large chemical weapon stockpile, several hundred metric tons of different types of agents like mustard gas, sarin, and VX, some of which is loaded, we think, into either bombs, artillery shells, or missiles. And so the concern is that either the Syrian regime would use these weapons against the rebels or against civilians supporting them, or if security around these chemical weapon facilities collapses, then either militias or groups like Hezbollah or Al-Qaeda could get access to them as well.
Benjamin Jensen studies military strategy. He says chemical weapons are really an instrument of last resort. He says President Assad may merely want to remind foreign capitals that he has them, and they should be careful about how they treat him.
There's certainly a lot of speculation right now that the primary use term for Assad is his back is against a wall, that this would be some type of last-ditch defense of Damascus effort where he would use possibly mustard gas on the low end or on the higher end some nerve gas agent delivered by plane or artillery shell. The problem there with that logic is, one, it would require a fairly large troop concentration to actually be effective, right? So you wouldn't use a strategic weapon in a tactical way against a small unit formation. Two, the risks are high for Assad and his inner regime, and they know that. They know that once they use these weapons, it is a game changer. The U.S. president has said as much, NATO has said as much, so they know the second they use these weapons, it will mean that full intervention is possible.
But Jensen says there is also the more troubling possibility that President Assad is preparing to move the weapons.
The other alternative explanation is that the movement is in preparation to send them to a third party, like Hezbollah, or to possibly retreat with them to some defensible enclave, like the Alawite coast, where he has an Alawite stronghold that he could retreat to. Now, that hasn't been seen yet, but it always is an option.
Experts say chemical weapons are inherently difficult to use. If you fire them and the wind changes, they could be blown back onto your own position. Experts say using chemical weapons would be a last-ditch act of desperation that would almost certainly trigger international military intervention. They say another possibility is that President Assad may be packing up his chemical weapons to take with him if he decides to leave Damascus and retreat to some small Alawite stronghold. Burton Bolak, KSA2, Washington.